We're ready to go. We're ready to have some fun. Yeah. Okay. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. We are kind of in between, let's say, legs of the turkey tour.
Yeah.
But not really. Greg is hunting in Nebraska. Just killed one this morning. I should have just moved this lamp. It's like kind of in the way. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna... Yeah, we'll get rid of some of this stuff here for you. There's a giant trash bag with some of Greg's clothes in it. Who knows if they're clean or not. Just give us a minute here. Let's get this lamp out of the way. This is our podcast lamp. This is how we keep everything lit properly. Okay.
We're back. Was it in the shop?
Yeah, I was like right here, and I didn't really even pay any attention to it. So, sorry about that. Lamp's gone.
We're back.
Today's video, we're going to be discussing mapping for turkeys. And we're using Onyx maps to do this. We've got them on our phones. Like, that's what you guys are seeing us messing with every day on these hunts, is we've got Onyx pulled up on our phones, and we're looking at a number of different things, but we're going to get into all that. The first thing we're looking for is public areas, but after that it's habitat when it comes to turkeys.
Yep.
The map that I'm looking at here is down in Mississippi. Once we find the area, then we're looking more big picture. Right here you've got some roads that are leading through, but they're not drivable roads. These are just like logging roads.
Yep.
Essentially, the
walking paths.
Walking paths, you never know. Sometimes you get there and people have been driving four-wheelers on them or whatever. Sometimes areas allow that. You may have to do a little bit more digging to find that information out.
Don't take too much to heart when you see those either. You know, like Aaron said, it could be people on there. It could be only a walking path. You just gotta...
Thing that we do know, though, is that it's most likely not being driven on unless it's by, state agency folks. So you've got some paths going through here. And in and around those paths, I'm going to turn my satellite imagery on only here. This is kind of what we're looking for from a satellite image. You've got mature pines up here on top, what looks like mature pines anyway, and then you have mixed hardwoods and pines kind of leading off of those. And then in two different sections around those woods, you got what looks like a clear cut. And having not been there to this area, we don't know if that clear cut is fresh, if it's several years old and grown up. But what we can tell from just the aerial photo is that there's a lot of habitat diversity here. You've got that clear cut, you got a good distinct edge line there. You've obviously got some roads going through there, which is going to provide more openings for turkeys. You've got pines, maybe even some pine thickets. And then the hardwood mix. And then on all sides of it, you can kind of see there's a lake up there. You've got another clear cut up there to the northwest. Your main human travel is on the road to the west and on the highway to the east. So you got a good, we'll just measure that and see how far across that is.
And that's another cool tool, or just one of the many cool tools, I guess, that we're always using on these maps. A lot of times we'll talk about we're trying to get far away from access, or we're going to be, going to areas where we can get a really long way from the road. We find that all out before we actually get there. It's not something where we're just going in and walking and being like, well, man, we walked forever and we got to that next road. This is all stuff that we've looked at, and it's awesome because you can do line distance, you can do one line, you can do a path, you can do, you can save all those lines too. So, for example, if you find an area and you make a good access route, then you can use that line, save that line, mark it, and then you'll have that. And when you're in the woods, your GPS dot, I guess, what is that?
We're essentially saving our Onyx maps.
You're saving your route. And
right. Well, we're saving the map itself, though, too, before we go on these hunts, and we should mention that. Like, right now we've got Wi-Fi, so we're looking at these maps fast and kind of picking areas from afar. But then we're marking them with all the lines and waypoints, as Zach just touched on. And then we're actually saving the map for the off-grid feature on Onyx. Because in a lot of these places, you don't have service.
Some of them you do, some of them you don't. But it's definitely an awesome option to just have that saved. And we always do it like we were in...
And the GPS on your phone works everywhere.
Right. And we were actually in Mississippi and Alabama when we were there. You guys didn't have service. I was just rolling in the LTE.
Super cool, just rolling in the LTE.
Oh man, just rolling.
Hashtag rolling in the LTE. That's good. when we're not rolling in the LTE, use the off-grid feature. It definitely helps a ton because you can still see where you're at even when you're in the bottom of a hole.
Yep.
So that's what we do after we pick these spots. But I just measured that from road to road like I was just saying, and it's 1.5 miles across there. You can't access from the east road. That's what we're deducing from this map anyway. And right in the center of the property, there looks to be some good diversity from the satellite image. Now if we go and we switch over to topo, you can kind of see that there is some creeks running through it. There's one there at the south end that kind of bends through that road. See that? And then there's another one that forks up through there. And there's another one up here closer towards that lake. Now that lake's on private, but we're paying attention to that, even though it's on private ground, because it all has to do with the kind of the habitat structure, the big picture, like Zach was saying. And the other thing that I'm looking at on this map is there's a couple of really high points up on the tops of these ridges. Like right there. Mm-hmm. That's not far from that walking path. Right there, that's not far from the walking path either. And if you come up that road early morning and jet up to the top of that high peak, you can probably hear any turkey gobbling on that entire piece from there.
Yep.
We're marking that as a potential listening spot or spot to start early in the morning. And if we go back to the hybrid feature, we can sort of see all the pieces coming together. You know, the one advantage that the topo does have is that it shows you those little creek drainages. Mm-hmm. And when you go to the hybrid feature, those kind of get, you know, obscured a little bit because you have all that satellite imagery on there. But when you look at it from a hybrid, you can see where all those ridge tops are. Like that's a pine ridge top in the center there. They're probably not roosting right there. They're probably roosting down closer in towards those creeks or along the edges of those clear cuts. This spot has everything, at least from first glance, that turkey's going to need.
And that's the first step. We pick a whole bunch more of these once we get to an area. You know, a lot of times on the map we're like, we've got our base, I don't know, anywhere from 3 to 25 spots.
Right.
And then once we get there and we see, okay, you know, we can compare boots on the ground to what we're seeing on the map. We can be like, okay, that's the type of habitat that we're looking for. Then we're going and revisiting that map back at camp, back at, you know, where we've got service, whatever it may be, or even in the field, or on the road, just looking for the next spot.
And you can kind of touch on what you got there in Ohio.
So I'm just looking at an area, and I've actually never hunted this area. I've hunted, you know, other public pieces, you know, relatively close to it. And the first thing in this steep habitat, this is habitat where it's, you know, a little bit steeper terrain, a lot of stuff in southern Ohio where I'm looking has been, you know, the land has been messed with quite a bit, like strip mines, lots of timber cuts and stuff like that.
That looks steep.
This is steep, yes. And
yeah, you can see because the lines are so close together on the topo there.
Right, and again, topo is going to help you out in these areas a lot because you can find these high points, you can find where there's benches, and then I was just telling Aaron also, side note, I lived in this area for like 4.5 years, and I didn't even know some of this stuff was there. But now that I've got this OnX, I'm finding small pieces, big pieces that, you know, I didn't even really know existed or didn't know they were that big, you know. I knew they existed.
They have people trying to update these all the time because, you know, land changes hands constantly, year to year, whether it's private land, public land, whatever.
Yep.
So, I mean, they have a big job.
And just simply knowing, oh, for sure, and just simply knowing now, you know, I mean, if I would have, I wish I had this, I guess, let's put it this way. So, anyway, I found this area just now. There's only 2 places to access. And one of the things that always sticks out to me is a big main, what I would call a big main valley with main ridge tops off of the top. And here we've got a main creek that's going down through the middle. And then there's these big ridges. And there's lots of secondary ridges that come off of those. The main thing, I guess, in this area, you're still looking for that diversity. The only difference is you're not talking about pines and cutovers as much as you're talking about hardwoods, creek bottoms, and clear cuts. And another thing as well that I found in southern Ohio is pipelines, like gas lines, and power lines. Mm-hmm. Anything where you've got a change in just hardwoods, you know.
Open area.
Yeah. Then you've got some grassland areas, and then you've got big hardwoods, and mostly big hardwoods, but when you can find a lot of those things coming together, that's really important. And the big one for me has always been water.
Water is the one common thing, really. No matter where we're hunting turkeys, they gotta have water, and they just don't seem to travel near as far as deer will to get it.
Yep.
You know, and like you said, that one's got a big creek running through it. That place in Mississippi that I'm looking at over here has got a couple of creeks running through it.
Yep.
And when you get there, if you check them and they got water in them and it's nice and green down there in those creek bottoms, that's the first thing you're looking for, and then you work out from there.
Now, looking at this more in depth, this was another reason that I got to looking at it. There's this pipeline that goes through the middle.
Very limited access too, like you mentioned.
Like crazy.
You've got several miles across there.
Look at
and like if you're trying to go east to west through there, you've got to go and you've got to cross several of those super steep creeks.
Yeah, we're talking
mile and a half.
A mile and a half. So that's a really long way.
That's a really long mile and a half though. As the crow flies, like I said, it's a mile and a half, but they've got to go up and over four times.
Yeah, in two main valleys. Anyway,
not gonna happen.
Yeah. Anyway, this is an area that I'm very interested in because you've got this pipeline, you've got creek bottom with hardwoods. Likely, if I'm looking at it close, there's some cuts, some old cuts in there, and then on top of that, there actually is some pine, pretty good pine forest. And this is a different type of pine in Ohio than you're going to get in the South. They will spend a lot of time in the pines.
Pretty open pines,
white
almost
pine.
Like ours up here.
That
we find on public some.
Yep, and they're a lot more open. They're big. They're great for roosting. So a lot of times, like for example, I'm looking right here. I'm looking at this creek bottom. You've got right there. I mean, that's where I'm drawn to instantly. On this side of this hill, you've got cut. Right here, you've got hardwoods with some good flat little areas in that bowl there. You got the creek bottom, and then you've got that point that falls right into that creek bottom.
Potentially, and like you said, this is a guess. Like we could get in there, and
they're a half mile to the east. It could be.
They may not be right there, but once you do find them, then it does make sense. It's kind of like finding buck bedding. Once you find turkeys there and you really think about it, they have everything that they need in that spot.
And that's again, like Aaron was saying, same thing in Mississippi. You're going to want to be in an area. In these spots, where you can hear, and then you can, make your judgments from there. Maybe your first morning going into a new area, you're just simply trying to locate turkeys and as many of them as you can.
If you're wasting too much time in areas where there's no turkeys, then you're not being efficient.
Right.
And that's the biggest, I guess, killer of your success is going to be your efficiency. Especially for us when we're traveling and we're turkey hunting, we get a lot of questions about that as well. About how you pick a spot and then go in there and kill a bird in 3, 4, 5 days on an area where you've never been. It's in large part due to all the map scouting that we do from home before we even get there. And obviously things are going to change once you get boots on the ground, but you have to have multiple options kind of planned out in these areas for that exact reason. And a lot of these, if you're looking at a great big national forest, I had one pulled up a while ago. It may be thousands of acres of just beautiful hardwood timber that looks like there should be turkey strutting in it.
But there's not enough diversity.
Right. They may not be in there. There may be a creek and then tons of hardwoods, but then if you don't have like those pines, that power line, those roads, and then the cut,
it's funny
that changes the whole complexity of the area.
It's funny you say that because, quick side story, when I was 18, I moved to southern Ohio. I had lived in northwest Ohio where there was no turkeys. I mean, virtually none. Moved to this area, and there was a lot of trial and error of, it took me a long time to figure out that it was multiple different habitats. I would be like, man, this timber is beautiful. Just, awesome like this.
There should be turkeys
in there. There'd be turkeys in there. And there maybe would be occasionally, but, not like some of the other areas that I'd found where, and it took me a long time to even put that, not a long time, but it took some, failure to be like, okay, they're not even here. They're not even in these areas. They like that. They're diverse.
Open,
Woods, creek, or, hardwoods, creek, thicket, power line, whatever. That's where they're congregating and,
That's the one thing that we talk about often is deer are different than turkeys. They're more adaptable. They need those factors as well, but turkeys have to have them because, like Jake said the other day, they're on the limb half the day. They only have during daylight to get all of the things that they need, and if they're not close by, they're just not going to be there.
We've been talking. We'll talk.
We'll do
a
been
little talking.
We've been talking. When we get to talk about maps, we really talk for a long time.
If you're hunting, if you're a hunter and you're hunting public land, private land, whatever it may be, please check out the Onyx. We have the discount code in the description below. It's THP. You get 20% off. Our number one thing when we're out there hunting, I would say it's almost more important than the gun.
Like every night when we're in the tent, we're getting ready to go to sleep, we're on this thing, looking at the spot that we're planning to go. We're trying to find a spot to go.
Yep.
That's going to do it.
We'll stop talking.
We have talked way too much. We need to be packing our stuff up. Greg's on his way back from Nebraska. He killed a turkey this morning. So, yeah, things are getting wild and crazy here real soon. And we will see you very soon on the next video. We'll either have some of Greg's Nebraska hunts up.
Or maybe you've already watched that.
Yeah. True. It depends on how quick I get this video done for you guys. I don't know.
Depends on how long we keep talking. It's going to make
it a lot easier. If we keep talking, we're never going to get this video up. So, yeah, we're going to go. Thanks for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please do that right now and give this video a like if you liked it. Yeah, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.